So I took this assembly off, and to do that you have to take this thing off. There's just this screw here, you take that off and then just you can pull that out. And you have to take this screw right here out, and then you can take this thing off. You have to take this little clip out of this end of the spring so that it can come out of this little plate here. And we have to take a screw and a little plate off of this side. Just a little bar that goes across that holds both of these shafts down. And you have to take this screw out of the end because that screws into this thing right here. And you can pull this out, and I'm going to see if I can take this apart and clean the individual pieces on it, because you see that doesn't turn, that doesn't turn, that turns a little bit but it's stiff. These are all stiff. That one doesn't turn, that one doesn't turn. So I'm showing that one doesn't turn, or barely. That one barely turns, and that one doesn't turn. So let's see if we can take this apart and clean all that off. It looks like it should come apart. There's a little screw here, and then I guess you can slide these out. This end won't come off because there's a taper pin there. I don't want to take that little tiny taper pin out. Also, these little carry things here seem pretty stiff, so I'm going to have to see if I can get this shaft apart too, but we're getting there. Not sure, these things might be pretty sticky. Those I might just put WD-40 on and let that soak because looks like it's going to be a lot harder to get this shaft out, and there might be a taper pin in the end, I'm not sure. Anyway, got some more cleaning to do, and then hopefully we can move on to the carriage. Okay, so on the Monroe here, you can see these little things here. These are supposed to slide back and forth. They're pretty, that one moves a little bit, but it doesn't, kind of sticky. That one's real sticky. That one doesn't move at all. That one's okay. That one's sticky. These are supposed to slide back and forth, and what they do is on the bottom side of them, so if I can turn this around here. You can see these teeth on here. These teeth slide either over, if I find one that moves. Oh, some of these moved. There. These teeth slide over to engage with these gears on this shaft, which then drive the numbers on the carriage. And this one has 5 teeth on this little ring, so when you push any number above 5 on the keyboard, this one slides over. And the other one, so it has 4 teeth on a varying length. So when you push a 1, it slides over. So that slides over 1 position. If you push a 2, it slides over so that 2 teeth engage. If you push a 3, it slides so that 3 teeth engage, and so on. Or if you push a 6, you'll have this one slide over and this one slide over 1 position. Push a 9, this one slides over and this one slides over all the way, so you get all 9 teeth engaged. Anyway, these need to work for the keyboard to work. You can see the key won't go down because this, actually it won't go down right now because it's in the middle of a cycle. It's not coming out of the cycle, why is that? Turning it the wrong way. Okay, now it's out of the cycle. It has to be out of the cycle if you use the keyboard. See, these keys don't want to go down. Well, that one went down now. Now it won't come back up. The keys are sticky because they push on the ends of, you have big runners that run under here, and the runners have blades that fold out, and the bottom of the keys are angles so they push the blades over when you push the key down. Problem is, because these things are stuck, the little runners can't fold back and forth, so the keys don't want to go down. Or they do go down, they don't want to come back up. So what I'm going to do is put some WD-40 down in here just to free it up, and then once it's freed up, we'll oil it with the regular oil. I don't want to completely put too much WD-40 on because I don't want it to drip down onto the motor and get in the brushes and everything. Actually, it might be okay here because the motor is back here a little bit farther, but especially if you oil over here, right down there is the switch. So if you get oil on the switch, you're going to get sparks and fire, smoke and all kinds of stuff if the oil gets on the contacts. Anyway, while that's soaking in, we can take this apart because these gears have to move in order to drive the carriage, and you can see that one doesn't move at all. Pretty stiff on a lot of them. So let's see if we can get this apart. Ow. Have to switch some WD-40 on that. These actually, I think, should separate if I'm not mistaken. It's got a shaft in this end holding it together. I think that should come apart. Well, I'll have to play with this for a while, but these should come apart, and then these things here are just like half circles. They should just slide right off of there. And these should move up and down too. These are the carry flags. They don't want to move. See, that one moves. See how it pops down and pops back up? They should all do that. That one does a little bit. That one's stuck. So yeah, let me see if I can get this apart. So I got this all apart here. All these little drums slid off this shaft. I'm going to tap on some of them a little bit and use some WD-40 to get them off. But they're all off now. All these gears came off. They go on these things and spin around on there. All that has to be cleaned up. There's 10 of these little tiny springs here, and those are what act as the detents for the carry flags. So you just move up and down, and the springs either keep them held up or keep them held down, depending on where they are. I think I might try and take this shaft apart because some of these are. Maybe they're okay. No, it's pretty stiff. Also, this was keeping the two shafts together. It was clipped on right here. It's clipped around like that, holding them together. So I'll soak all this stuff in thinner, so if I can get that apart, and then we have to see if we can put it back together, put all these little tiny springs back in. So I'm taking this shaft apart. These things just slide off. There's the little washer, then this thing, then the big washer. And remember, this funny one goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The sixth one from the pin end gets the funny one for this clip to go on. So remember that when you put it back together. So all the shaft pieces are soaking. Let's come back to here and see how free or not free. Not free. Jeez. So that's stuck. Didn't seem to help a whole lot, did it? It's still stuck. I was hoping I'll have to take this shaft out because it doesn't look like it's going to be very easy to get out. Oh, sorry, I forgot. This will have to be worked back and forth some more. Not that free. This one here seems okay. Push some keys. And see how those move when I push the keys. When I push 1, that one moves over a little bit. 2, it moves over more. 3, it moves over even more. 4, it moves over even more. 5, it powers back and the next one moves over. 6, it moves over. And so on. Oh, it seems to be okay. Oh, this one's stuck over, so yeah, that row is completely stuck. It's almost there. That one's okay. This one's stuck. So, the work those back and forth a few more times. Hopefully we can get those freed up and then put the other 2 shafts back together. Okay, so now we can see as you push down all the 9s, all the plates squeeze together, and when we clear it, everything pops back apart. So that should be freed up now. We can take a look at the bottom of the machine to get this guy out of the way. And get crushed. Oops, should flip this around. Of course, it'd fly there again anyway. Right here. So we can see that I put too much WD-40 on. This looks completely soaked in WD-40. Let's see if we can get some of that off. Anyway, these are the things that I was talking about. They probably can't do with your hand, but they rock back and forth. If I push a key, you see them move. So we're going to put some oil on there. I should wipe it off first by covered in WD-40. I feel like someone's replaced the cord at one point, which I might be doing again because the insulation is falling off. This is the motor plate I was talking about. You take 2 screws here and 2 screws there, and this whole plate comes out. And the motor isn't actually directly wired in. Actually, this plate isn't directly wired in. There's just 3 spring contacts here, so when you take the screws out, this whole thing falls out. You don't have to undo any wiring. Some oil on each of these. And I'd rather have too much oil than not enough. Just keep that stuff lubricated. Let's see if I can get this out now. Maybe we'll redo the cord while we're here. The motor should be able to come out like this. This off so we can lay the machine on the other side. And see, there's a switch. There's a switch right there. This little roller comes down to close it. Taking those 4 screws out on the back. I'm going to have to move this governor assembly out of the way here. So I should move the motor over first. We got it. And this should be able to swing up, mostly out of the way. And then we should be able to, hopefully, stand up a little bit and then see if we can just pop this plate out of the bottom. Maybe. Should be nothing else holding it in. Well, I had this out the other day, just like this. I think I know what the problem is. We are going to have to take the motor off first. It's not going to slide out of that, because the motor slides into that gear in there, remember. So you have to take the screws out of the motor first so we can slide it back and then hopefully take this whole thing out. I'm not sure why they use these screws like this. These screws stick out the bottom of the case. I don't think you would be changing the motor that often that you have these so you could pull the motor out with the bottom still on. Okay, now that's free. So now we can hopefully pop this plate out. There we go. Now everything just falls right out. Okay. Plate goes out of the way. There's our motor, and there's those contacts right there. They just go right on those screws there. So you can see the wire comes in, goes under the motor, around to here. So we'll see if we can remove that and put a new cord on. Fly out this apart, you can get a better look at the fly weight. So there it is, and there's the contact. So when this flies out, it pulls the contact in and away from the other contact, and that's your governor mechanism. Also have a look down there inside the motor. You can see just focusing on that. See the brass brush holder. See what go on there. Not making it bright enough to see in there. You can kind of see the comm bars. It's not. Oh, you can see them. The comm bars and the rotor looks like it's wrapped in cloth almost. You can see that. It's kind of hard to tell. Anyway, so the wires came in under here, and then were actually put in the same brass ring. So the one wire came in here and the other wire came out the other side, and this brass ring was bolted on there onto the contact. I think I'm just going to splice it in down here, because I don't want to have to worry about anything getting against this metal here if the wire comes right in there, right where that goes, which would be, you know, if I just soldered right onto this, it would be pretty close to that. So we're going to splice it on this side. The other one went down to that contact, so I guess I can just wrap it around the contact there, wrap it around the post, since no wire comes out the other side. So let's do that. See the power resistor here. It looks like it's got pretty hot. A little burn mark on it, but it obviously still works. So this is an interference suppressor or something. So this is a universal motor. And while we have this here, we could check the brushes just to see what state they're in. Ooh, so got a lot of brush left there. No problem there at all. I'm not going to check the other one, they should be about the same. I'm not quite sure what the hours like these motors would have, because when you have the calculator on, they're not running all the time, they're only running when you're actually doing a calculation. This would depend on the environment where this calculator was used. Anyway, let's get our new wires in there, and we can put this back on and test it out. Okay, new wires were installed. I changed my mind, I just wrap both of them around the screw and tighten them down. It looks like it should be alright. So let's see if we can get this motor back in. Somewhere like that. And then this plate goes in this way. It's not quite right. So I'm going to put a screw or two to hold that in. So we can slide the motor in where it belongs. Really close. Let me actually I can lay this down for this step. That might be a little bit easier. Should be right there. No, it's not. It's not falling in. I'm gonna try this for a little bit. Okay, it fell in. It was somehow my shaft was farther over than I thought. So now we can drop this back down so it's resting on there. Screw back in the shaft here. That's in, we can turn the machine back over and put the screws in the bottom of the motor. Fold that in place. Make sure that our screw holes line up here. Alright, so now we can put all the screws back in, and once everything gets tightened down, our motor should be reinstalled and we can try it out. Also have to put the screws back in this bottom plate yet. It has pins that hold it in, so that's why it doesn't fall out without the screws in, but okay, so let's see how our new wiring will work. Okay, it's plugged in now. It works just fine. It must not stop every time because I have this thing off and probably the other thing out of alignment. That's probably why it doesn't stop every time, but it'll be up there. Anyway, wiring seems to be fine. So I guess we'll put our shafts back together then. I just want to try something. I took the motor out, just loosened it up, slid it back a little bit, and spun it around 180 degrees relative to the input shaft and the rest of the mechanism. And it seems to have gotten a lot quieter. Before it was making that growling sound and shaking a lot more. So it does seem to matter which way the motor shaft is relative to the rest of the machine. So there's some sort of timing there too. I'm not sure how you would know that unless you try it both ways and see which one seems better, but just something to note. So we're assembling these shafts. This shaft gets, and it's keyed, with a key in the top there, gets a washer. And the washers have keys on them too. Gets a washer. Some oil on that. And it gets a gear, and the gear rides on top of the washer, like that. And then it gets one of these things with the open end down. These are keyed as well. So it's a repeat of that process, and with this down, gear spins. Definitely a lot better than before. Okay, so I finally got this assembly back together. It was not very pleasant. There's little teeny tiny springs down in there. I'm not sure if you can see that or not. Like right down in there, there, and so on. There's little teeny tiny springs that are kind of like that, and they keep these little carry flags in one position or the other. So they pop down or pop up. Oh, they're not flopping all over the place. So it took a while to get all those springs back in. I did manage to do it. Of course, I lost one or two, but luckily I have a post machine that I was able to steal some from. So these should be alright. You see they pop down. And when you run the machine, they will all pop back up, which is what's supposed to happen. Once we put the carriage back on, we should see that when they're down, when they pop back up, they drive the next column one position forward. I'm sure you can see that right now, but each of these gears should turn one position. Yeah, I think it's too fast to really see. That one won't go down because it's right on the dog underneath, but once the machine starts in motion and that moves out of the way, this one can go down too. I think it's too hard to see. You can feel it moving. Maybe it doesn't move. It's supposed to move. I'll have to see how it works when I put the carriage back on. Because it could also be... So, I'm not sure. I'll have to see how it works when I put the carriage back on. Let's see, maybe because of the way the machine's moving, it clears them first before it activates them, because the way this is supposed to work is it adds the number first from the keyboard, then these would be set during the adding process, and then the dogs would move by to carry over to the next column. But there's two sets of dogs. There's a set of dogs for subtraction and a set of dogs for addition. So it could be, we'll have to see, but it could be because of the way the machine is moving. If the dogs for subtraction go by first, and the addition motion, it could clear these before it carries over. But like I said, we'll have to see how it looks when we put the carriage back on. So we'll just put a little bit of oil down on these mechanisms down here, the Leibniz gears. This is what we put WD-40 on yesterday, but WD-40 is not going to be probably that good as a long-term lubricant, so we're going to put some real oil on those. And if we put all 9s in, you see these gears turn, and they do. And the keyboard does not click because it's in repeat mode. Now it does. Oh, by the way, I did lose one of these little red knobs. I just torn off the push machine and painted it the right color. So, I think we are ready to put the casing back on, and once that's on, we can put the carriage back on. And we can also put the handle back on the front. Oops. Leave that in place. So I think next up is casing. Okay, so the covers are back on. I left these screws a little bit loose just in case I have to take it back off. Turn around to the front. It's time to put the carriage back on. There's the bottom of the carriage. Just oiled each of these little, see the little pin right there? Sticking out outside of that shaft. That's the detent, that's the little pin on a spring. And that's what gives the wheel the ideal positions. So, put some oil on that. We'll just oil the wheels themselves a little bit. Let they spin freely. Let's see what I'm doing, can you? A little bit of oil down there. I'll oil this. This is the cranking mechanism. Some oil on each of these shafts, and we have a little much. The bushings there. And I think that will be just about good then for that. So let's put the stuff on this side too. Put some oil on there. And the carriage then should be ready to go back on. So set it on temporarily. The axle here, actually that's got oil on it. And we should be able to slide this in. Okay, and then there's a screw that goes on the other end. Like that. And it should be ready for a test then. Okay, so we'll move the carriage to the home position. Like that. Should be up there. This thing works. So let's try all ones. Let's try to plug it in maybe. Alright, that seems to have worked. We'll try all 2s. Seems to have worked. Oops, one got a 3. That one not clear. The one got a 3, we'll have to take a look at that. Try all 3s. Seems to have worked. Okay, it seems like all that was not working was the 3s. No, not the 3s. 2s. That one gets a 3. Could just be a little bit out of adjustment. I'll have to take a look at that then. Let's see what happens if we do this. Ah, the carries do work. Add all 9s, added a 1, did carry all the way over, so that looks good. Our counter has been counting the whole time. So, looking pretty good except for this 2. He's getting a 3. So what we can do is take a look at, under here, those little, I might have to take the carriage bag off to get a better look at it, but I just have to bend it over just a little bit. And those things are on those rocker, so it could be that the rocker is just a little bit bent. See if that made any difference. No, we're still doing a 3. 1 works though. 3. So 3 works, just 2 is messed up for some reason. Seems louder now that I put it back together. It's interesting. So we've got that to look into. Everything else seems to be okay. We can try a multiplication. On the other side. And 625 times 625 is 390,625. So that works. Something's hitting on that. One thing I can try is see if it does the same thing in other columns. Yeah. So we have to look into that and see why that is causing a 3. Everything else seems to be just fine though. And this thing over here is if you want a tens carry counter. Because the counter up here, like if you hold this down, you won't get an accurate count of how many items you've entered. However, by holding this down, we get an accurate count of how many items we've entered 25. So that's all that does. If you don't want it anymore, you just put it back up. You can clear it. So, let's see if we can rectify our 3 problem. Okay, so I took the bottom off and then held that the rocker that runs all the way up here, I held that in place. And then we use a screwdriver to bend the tab over a little bit because those rockers just have a tab for each number, and the bend on each tab is different for each number. So like the 1 is just bent a little bit to push the rocker over a tiny bit, and the 4 is bent, all the way to push the rocker over all the way. So the 2 are just bending back a little bit. And now when I put a 2 here, I get a 2 in my accumulator. So everything should be working now. Get a 3, get a 3, get a 1, get a 1. So that should be cleared up hopefully. Let's do a division. Oh, we didn't check subtraction either, did we? If I subtract 1, it does nothing. 1. There we go. Subtract 1, yep, carries, borrows all the way over off the machine. I get a 1 for my 1 count for subtraction. So that should be. Why is it not clearing now? There we go. Try that again. Maybe I just didn't finish the cycle on clearing the counter. Anyway, seems to work. So let's try division. Actually, what we could do is just for completeness. Yep. Alright, and this works just fine. The end of the machine, so we'll do and then we should hear a bell. No bell. Wonder why the bell's not ringing. Maybe because I'm not over far enough, that could be why. Something doesn't seem right here. Let's try that again. Did I move over too far? 355. Stops. Add one back. Shift over. I wonder why this hook isn't engaging all the way. Yeah, it's not stopping the machine. An overflow for some reason. Maybe just something a little bit stuck. Let's start this over. I'm really concerned with why this lever isn't working properly. Let's try it again. Stops. Add one back. What has to do with this? It's making a funny noise. That time I got the bell. And not quite the right answer. I'll try again. Oh, I know what I did wrong. I forgot to clear the counter, I bet. Operator error. Have to clear the counter. That looks better. Alright, that looks better, 3.14 and so on. Alright, so this seems to be working. The vibration on the carriage and stuff might be due to, could be possible that the carriage is bent a little bit due to the shipping damage. I'm not sure about that. It does seem to work though, so I'm inclined to leave it as is. And try a multiplication again. Let's do a different one. 256. Yeah, there you go. 256 times 256 is 65536. So that seems to be fully operational now. I need to do a little bit of cleaning yet, I guess. Clean that off. Some dirt on the. Looks like it'll come off though. Probably need to repaint these Those should all be green. Those should all be red for your decimal indicators. These decimal indicators are pretty nice though. Nice and shiny and red. Anyway, I think that's going to be about it for this video. And this calculator seems to be working now. I just need some cleaning up and a little bit of exercise, and seems to be getting right answers. So, hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.